Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is episode 1098. It's Blind Magic in Alice Springs, and I am your host and presenter, Murray Stewart. Let me go back to late January 1986. Hunter Valley, New South Wales, Wallsend High. Yeah, that's right, Wallsend High School. Two totally blind identical twins were making history. Those identical twins were Murray and Martin Stewart, and we were the first vision-impaired children in New South Wales history to be integrated into a mainstream school. That school was Wallsend High in Newcastle, New South Wales. There were a couple of very, very special kids on that day that came up and introduced themselves and befriended us. I'll even name them, Stephen Crift and Darren Gilmore, and they remained solid friends right throughout our stay at Wallsend High School. But also what was unleashed was an incredible bullying culture. Yes, an incredible bullying culture. Not once a week, not once a month, but every day for the entire 5 years of our stay at that school. It started with name-calling, and then it merged into pinching us and throwing food at us and punching us. Yes, it became physical. And this occurred every time we went from class to class, and I mean every time. How did it affect us? Well, I can say now, for me personally, it made me feel not a part of the school. And if I look back now, my overriding feeling is that it meant that we were cut off from making potential other friends. So those bullies missed out, and so did we. For me, it ended when I was in year 11. So there you go, from year 7 to year 11. For me, it ended in year 11 when I was sitting on some stairs having lunch, that's right, at the front of the school with some friends, and one of these bullies thought it was a great idea to run past me and pull my hair as hard as he possibly could. He did it 4 times. I lunged at him 4 times and missed him. But I didn't miss him the 5th time. No, I didn't. I pulled him to the bottom of the stairs and I proceeded to belt him several times. Punch him, in fact, several times. Yes, the whole 5 years he copped, the whole 5 years of frustration was unleashed upon him. I'm not proud of it, but I totally understand how the melting pot boiled over. And so I remember the next day my father arrived at the school and informed me that I was leaving school for the last time. I'm still not sure whether I was actually suspended or expelled. I'm not sure. But I was informed that the young man involved had gone to the police and that I was lucky not to be charged, but he had a broken jaw and he also had a broken nose. So yes, he did cop a right royal belting, that's for sure. I did unleash those 5 years of frustration upon him. So why were we bullied? Well, it was simply because we were different. It was simply because we were different. You know, I think about this very, very deeply because schoolhouse bullying is still going on today. And it is still for the same reasons. Anyone who is perceived to be a little different, it would appear, is set upon. And it's got to stop. It has to stop. And schools need to introduce a very, very strong zero tolerance policy when it comes to this sort of outrageous, cowardly behaviour. Can I say that there's lots and lots of kids that are reported to be bullied, but I never hear anyone who actually is responsible. Do you notice that? No one tells you that they're a bully, and no one tells you that their children are bullies, and yet you always hear it in reverse. So someone's doing it. Someone is doing it. In fact, lots of kids are doing it. If you're listening to this broadcast and you are a bully, you know who you are, and you know that you're doing it. You do. My suggestion is, today, you can do something about it. Because I can tell you now, even you ultimately will lose. Because there is someone in that school that you're bullying that one day will boil over like I did, and you're going to get very, very hurt. The other thing that will happen is that one day you will grow up and you will develop empathy. That's right, the ability to put yourself in someone else's position. And you, therefore, will wonder about the child that you bullied. You'll wonder where they are, what effects you caused. In fact, you'll even wonder whether they took their life as a result of your actions. Yes, you will suffer ultimately if you continue bullying. So my suggestion is stop today. That's it. Stop today. Because you know what? What you're bullying that child about cannot and will never hurt you. If it's because they have a disability, how can that hurt you? It will not. If that child has a weight problem, how can that hurt you? It will not. Or is it perhaps because that child is smarter than you? How can that hurt you? It will not. So as stated, if you continue bullying, one day, like molten lava, it will boil over and it will burn you. It will. Or mentally, as I said, down the track, you will be hurt. You will be when you develop empathy. So the best way for none of these things to occur is for you to stop the bullying right now. That's right, put a stop to it. And there is another approach as well that you could take. You could actually walk up to that child and tell him or her some magic words. You tell them that you are so sorry for the way in which you behave toward them. And then you could embrace them. Because what you have done, not only have you emotionally affected that child and made them feel disenfranchised in the school environment, but you have missed out on a possible friendship. You have. So how about you embrace that young person and head off on a new journey, a new pathway, and you will find out what you have missed. It's so important that we break this bullying culture. It's so unnecessary, so unwanted, so unneeded, and as I said, it is. I will say this, and I in no way, shape or form wish to glorify bullies or bullying. But that 5 years of constant bullying has definitely resulted in me becoming more resilient when it comes to dealing with life's problems. But is that the way to do it? No, it's not. But definitely I have become more resilient as a result of my 5 years of being punched, pinched, name called, etc. Yes, it most definitely has resulted in me becoming a more resilient person. But I've got no doubt there has been some negative effects, and that's not for me to judge. And so I won't pronounce them today, but I've got no doubt that there are some negative layovers from those days back at Wallsend High School. But I also thank those wonderful, wonderful young boys that did befriend both myself and my brother, because that did make for some very good memories amongst the other memories that I have of my school life. But I do call on you, if you are and have been a bully, to stop today, because ultimately it will hurt you. It will. It absolutely will. And just to exemplify that, it was around about 15 years later at a nightclub in Melbourne when a young man approached me, and he came up to my side and he said, "Can I buy you a drink?" And I said, "Sure, but what is the purpose?" And that young man burst into tears. Yes, he did. He burst into tears. And he announced himself as the bully that I beat up on my second last day at school. And he had carried that mental injury all that time. And so I physically unleashed on him. He emotionally unleashed that night at the nightclub. And he said to me in no uncertain terms that that was the best lesson he had ever learnt. And he thanked me. He thanked me for the lesson that I taught him. And he apologised over and over again that night. So he carried that mental injury upon the physical injuries, of course, that I caused him, but he had carried that mental scar all of that time. So you see, if you are a bully, ultimately you do get hurt. You do. And what you are trying to do if you like, in terms of picking on the difference of the child, that child can never hurt you with their difference, but you are hurting yourself. You are. And I will never forget that night at that Melbourne night spot, and it made me clearly understand that in the end, life does turn a full circle. It does, particularly if our behaviour is such that he carried out. And whilst I do not, and am not prescribing my approach as being the approach to resolve the problem of bullying, I certainly will say that there does come a time in one's life when you do need to say enough is enough. And that certainly was my time. And so I did. All right, folks, I believe if I'm right, this is episode 1098. Am I correct, Heather?
Yes.
Well, how about that? And this has been a Blind Magic Communications production.